Hey guys, tonight we step quietly into the misty, marble-walled world of ancient Rome, not through its emperors or generals, but by slipping into the sandals of someone far more overlooked. You're not a gladiator, not a senator, not even a fishmonger hawking goods at the Forum. No. Tonight, you're a bath attendant. That's right. Your job is sweat, steam, and sandals. And let me tell you, you're in for a very moist kind of adventure. The hour is pre-dawn. The kind of early where the stars haven't even finished their night shift. Rome is quiet except for the soft crack of a cartwheel turning, the distant bark of a stray dog, and your own tired feet against cobblestone. You tug your cloak tighter. It still smells faintly of ash from yesterday's furnace duty. Lucky you, so, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, and hey, let me know your location and the local time, just curious how far this little story will travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're walking past the Forum Boreum, the air thick with dew and yesterday's market odors, spices, fish, maybe some suspiciously warm cheese. By now, you know this route by heart. Down the alley with the chipped Venus statue, left at the bakery that always burns their loaves. And then, there it is. Looming like some giant rectangular god, the bath complex, the baths of Titus, they're called. Or Agrippa. Or Caracalla, depending on the day, the emperor, and your supervisor's mood. All you know is, it's your workplace. And it's cold. Which is ironic, considering that in 3 hours, the air in here will be so thick with heat and sweat you could cook lentils in it. You slide open a side door with creaky hinges, entering the baths before the city has even stretched. Marble columns rise into shadow. The floor, a cold sea of stone and tile, makes your heels regret every life choice. Somewhere deeper inside, rats scurry, startled by your arrival. Or maybe it's your soul trying to escape. You light your little oil lamp. It sputters. Typical. You try again. Better. The faint yellow glow casts long shadows of pillars and statues, giving everything an eerily theatrical feel, like you've stepped onto the stage before the audience shows up. The statues, mostly nude, as Roman statues tend to be, look mildly judgmental. You nod at them anyway. It's good to stay on their good side. Your first task is lighting the main hall's lamps. They're hung high, which means climbing the little wooden ladder that wobbles more than you'd like. You've asked for it to be replaced. Twice. The quartermaster said, "We'll review that." That was 6 months ago. You climb. Slowly. Carefully. With all the grace of a one-legged goat. The ladder creaks and groans as you stretch to reach the first lamp. You manage to light it without dying, which is always a win. 1 down, 49 to go. As you work your way through the hall, the space comes to life, just barely. The lamps cast gentle halos across mosaic floors depicting nymphs and dolphins. Steam still clings faintly to the cold marble from yesterday's heat. You breathe in damp stone, oil smoke, and the ghost of eucalyptus from the caldarium. This world will wake soon. Senators will argue. Philosophers will recline dramatically. Children will cannonball into sacred fountains, despite the signs saying not to. And you'll be everywhere and nowhere at once. Just another shadow behind the steam. Historians still argue whether bath attendants were slaves, freedmen, or paid workers. Chances are, in your case, you were born into this gig, or bought into it, or maybe you lost a bet. Either way, it's your life now. You tiptoe past the frigidarium, the cold plunge pool, where a faint ripple glimmers in the torchlight. You think you see something move, but no, it's just your reflection. Hopefully, now comes your favorite moment of the early shift. The silence. Just you, the stones, and the slow thump of your own heartbeat. You sit for a second at the edge of a warm bench. Your legs thank you. You won't be sitting again until well after sunset. In the background, a pigeon flutters awkwardly into a column and then acts like nothing happened. Classic, you stand again, with a grunt that betrays your age, or your diet of barley and leftover olives. The fires won't stoke themselves. And right now, the hypocaust, the underfloor heating system, might as well be the Arctic, but for this one moment, before the heat, before the shouting, before someone inevitably throws their sandal at you because their water wasn't lukewarm enough, you let your eyes close, and you remember, this job isn't glory. It's not status. It's survival. It's the quiet heartbeat of Rome, beneath the statues and scrolls. Someone has to light the fires. Someone has to sweep the steam. Today, that someone is you. You trudge into the belly of the bath complex, where the air is thick with last night's smoke and tomorrow's regrets. It's furnace time, your daily ritual with the sacred fire gods of the Roman hypocaust. And by sacred fire gods, we mean piles of logs, soot-coated brick walls, and a whole lot of crawling. You slip behind a low archway, ducking into the furnace corridor like a mole into its burrow. The hypocaust system is clever, one of Rome's crown jewels of engineering. Warm air from the furnaces circulates under the floors and up through hollow bricks in the walls, turning the caldarium into a human crockpot. Historians still argue whether the design originated entirely in Rome or was heavily borrowed from earlier Greek or even Persian systems. Either way, you're the one sweating to make it work, your torch flickers, casting a jittery glow over the walls, and you reach the first firebox. It's cold. Like, why did I leave my warm bed cold? You sigh and start hauling wood from the storeroom, your arms aching before you even get to the heavy oak logs. It's always oak. Pine burns fast, smells funny. Oak smolders like it's got a grudge. You shove logs into the furnace mouth, the coals from yesterday's burn still clinging to a faint glow. You blow on them gently, like trying to wake a sleepy cat. Sparks twitch, then flare. You add dried kindling. And wait, then, whoosh. A ribbon of flame dances up. You shield your face and lean back. Triumphant. Fire, achieved. 1 down, 6 to go, you crawl through another narrow corridor, this one lined with soot so thick you could write your memoirs on it. Your tunic catches on a protruding brick, and you hiss under your breath. You fix it later. Or never. It's already got 6 patches and 2 mystery stains. In the second furnace room, you find something worse than cold ash, a rat. It's sitting on a pile of twigs, looking at you like you're the intruder. You stare it down. It blinks. You blink. It finally scurries away, offended. You add it to your growing list of adversaries, next to Gaius from Towel Duty and that marble statue with the judging eyebrows. Eventually, all the furnaces are lit. Puffing heat through the labyrinth beneath the baths. You can hear the gentle creaks as stone warms and tiles expand. It's like the building is waking up, stretching its limbs after a long slumber. You pause for a moment beside the main furnace, leaning against the wall. Your skin prickles from the heat, your face is streaked with soot. You think about your uncle, who did this job until he couldn't bend his knees anymore. He used to say the heat kept him young. You're starting to think it just baked his brains. There's an odd beauty here, though. When you look closely, the soot on the walls isn't just grime, it's a map of thousands of mornings like this. You see the handprints. Yours and others, layered over time. One of them might be from a slave who lit fires during Nero's reign. Another from a freedman who dreamed of becoming a merchant. You're just hoping for a lunch break. Historians debate whether bath attendants got breaks. Some sources suggest structured shifts, others imply you worked until someone yelled enough. You're pretty sure your shift ends when your knees give out, the heat builds fast now. You wipe your forehead with the least disgusting part of your tunic and head back toward the main hall. As you emerge, the contrast is striking, hot air behind you, cold marble ahead. You let the warmth hug your back for a second longer, before the marble's chill kisses your bare feet. Outside, the city is starting to stir. You hear the echo of hoofbeats on stone, a vendor shouting about garum sauce, and the distant clatter of amphorae. Sunrise hasn't quite broken, but it's close. You can tell by the faint pink smudge on the horizon through the narrow bath windows. Inside, the bath still feels like a sleeping giant. You've lit its heart. Now, it's time to make it shine. You grab a battered copper bucket and trudge toward the caldarium. The steam chamber always smells a bit like mint and despair. Time to check the water levels, temperature, and, if you're lucky, not get splashed by yesterday's leftover broth someone mistook for bathwater. One of the quirks of your job is learning all the little tricks: which valve leaks, which pipe hisses, which vent cover is secretly hiding a colony of bees. Yes, bees. That was last spring. You still have the sting marks. As you lift the caldarium bucket to pour warm water over the tiles, you catch a glimpse of your own face in the ripple. Tired. Soot-smudged. A little proud. You're the ghost who keeps this place running. The invisible hinge on which the morning turns, the water hisses as it hits the hot stone. Steam rises. You breathe in, it begins. You step into the tepidarium, the warm room, and it greets you like an old friend. The air here is thick and gentle, not quite steam, not quite mist, and smells faintly of oils, citrus, and whatever cologne was trending in the Senate last week. The heat lingers without pushing too hard, like a wool blanket thrown over your shoulders. It's the middle child of the bath complex, less intense than the caldarium, warmer than the frigidarium, and probably the most bearable space you'll enter all day. Your job now is prep work. A dozen marble benches must be scrubbed. The walls wiped down. The copper water jugs polished until they shine like tiny suns. You grip the coarse cloth and begin to wipe. Circular motion, then rinse, repeat. The rhythm becomes hypnotic. You hum under your breath, something tuneless and Roman, maybe the same melody the mosaic cleaner was humming last week. Scholars still argue whether the tepidarium served more as a social lounge or a transitional temperature zone. From what you've seen, it's both. This is where the wealthy sprawl, towel-draped and opinion-heavy, discussing trade routes, grain prices, or the gladiator scandal of the week. This is also where people take naps they pretend are meditations. You've swept around snoring magistrates too proud to admit exhaustion. As you polish the lion head spouts near the wall, your fingers catch on a groove. You look closer. Carved into the marble is a faint inscription: Lucius loves Flavia. It's shallow and clumsy, probably done with a stolen dinner knife, but there it is. Romance, scratched forever into bathhouse plumbing. You smile. Someone risked wrath, and possibly a fine, for that tiny act of defiance. Love in the time of mildew. You shuffle to the oil shelves, checking the stocks. Olive oil, of course. Thick and golden. Used for skin scraping with strigils. You've got jars labeled with tiny etchings: standard, scented, imported from Hispania. You briefly consider stealing a dab of the good stuff for your dry elbows. But no, the last guy who tried that ended up chasing rats for a week. Now comes towel duty. You haul a sack of linens out from the storage room, dragging it like a defeated soldier. The towels are rough, slightly damp, and carry that special scent only ancient Rome could master: citrus, sweat, and a faint trace of whatever the last person had for dinner. You stack them neatly beside the benches, fluffing each one like it's going to a state banquet. Nobody notices, but you still do it. It's your tiny rebellion against the chaos to come. A pigeon watches you from a high window. Possibly the same pigeon from earlier. You name it Claudius. He looks like a Claudius. He blinks slowly, unimpressed. Just as you finish the last towel, you hear the faint groan of the outer door. That's the sound of morning. Your peace is about to be shattered. The first visitors always arrive early. Wealthy types. Men with sandals too clean and attitudes too loud. One of them steps in, a young patrician with slick hair and the kind of robe that says "My father owns land." He grunts at you. Not quite a greeting, not quite an insult. You nod anyway. Behind him is a scribe, older, bent at the shoulders, already dripping with anxiety. The two argue about something, grain shipments, perhaps. You try not to listen, but they're loud enough to echo. You just keep polishing the last of the bronze fixtures like it's your job. Because, well, it is. As more bathers shuffle in, the space begins to buzz. Sandals slap on tile. Water splashes. Laughter bounces off marble. And you, the ghost behind the curtain, move quietly from corner to corner, picking up cups, sweeping up olives, dodging elbows and egos. You help a man who slipped. You mop a puddle before someone else does. You tighten a faucet with your knife. No one thanks you, but one woman nods once as she passes. That's practically an award in your line of work. Here in the tepidarium, life moves at a strange pace. Time bends. Some patrons sit for hours, talking about politics, poetry, or whether Jupiter ever takes a bath himself. One man insists the emperor bathes in dolphin milk. Another scoffs and mutters, "It's goat." They both shrug. Who knows? Historians have noted that Roman baths were more than hygienic. They were status symbols, meeting halls, informal courts, and low-key gossip factories. You've heard secrets here that would start wars. Or at least very awkward dinner parties. One bather, a portly merchant with a laugh like a thunderclap, calls you over and demands a footstool. You bring it. He doesn't say thank you. But he tosses you a dried figure. It hits you in the chest and falls to the floor. You pick it up anyway. That's lunch. Later, someone asks for more oil. Someone else wants hotter water. Another complains the steam smells too earthy. You take a deep breath. You don't scream. You don't roll your eyes. You simply nod and disappear, like a very polite shadow. At one point, a child runs in, clearly not supposed to be here, laughing wildly and nearly slips. You catch him just in time. His mother appears seconds later, flustered, mouthing apologies. You wave it off. The child looks up at you, wide-eyed. "Are you the fire keeper?" he asks. You nod. He grins. "Cool." You almost smile. The sun is up now, slanting through the high windows, turning the mist into ribbons of gold. The tepidarium is full, alive, echoing with the daily rituals of a city that believes water is holy, oil is power, and bath time is life itself, and through it all, you work. Quietly. Steadily, the keeper of warmth. You slip into the caldarium, the hot room, where the world narrows into steam and stone. Instantly, your breath thickens. Your skin slicks. It's like stepping into a soup made of other people's ambitions and yesterday's garlic. The marble walls gleam with condensation, and the air hums with a heat that feels almost alive. This is where the elite come to sweat. Where senators grumble about taxes while oil drips down their backs. Where poets dream of fire and revolution, until the heat makes them sleepy. The caldarium is not for the faint of heart. Or lungs. Your first task is the brazier. The great bronze beast in the corner needs feeding. You shuffle past lounging bodies, careful not to knock over anyone's oil flask. And throw more coals into its glowing belly. Flames snarl upward, licking the sides. You feel your face flush. Historians agree the caldarium was the heart of Roman bathing culture, but debate still lingers over whether its popularity was due more to health theories or status signaling. Hippocratic beliefs about sweating out toxins were in vogue, but so was simply showing off your muscular back to the guy 2 benches down. You grab a strigil and a bucket of warm water, moving to help an older man who gestures lazily for a rinse. He's got the look of someone who's eaten too many oysters and argued too often about grain tariffs. You pour gently over his shoulders, then hand him the curved metal scraper. He grunts in approval and begins his scraping ritual, murmuring something about his lumbago. You've done this 1,000 times. The scraping, the rinsing, the oiling. You could do it blindfolded. Sometimes, it feels like you are blindfolded, by routine, by steam, by the endless parade of naked egos drifting in and out, but there are moments, like when the steam clears just enough to reveal the mural above the arch, a Neptune riding dolphins, trident raised. It's chipped and fading, but still majestic. Someone once tried to paint over it with a gladiator scene. You helped scrub that paint off. Neptune stayed, or when you catch two old friends meeting here by chance, breaking into laughter that echoes like bells across the tiles. You stand very still, soaking in that sound. It doesn't happen every day. You move to the plunge basin. It's like a hot tub but with more Latin and fewer boundaries. Several bathers are already lounging, faces slack with heat-drunk peace. One gestures for a refill on his water jug, which sits beside him like a lazy dog. You nod and fetch it, careful to avoid the puddles forming beneath your own feet. You think of how much water flows through this place every hour. Hundreds of gallons. Thousands on busy days. All piped in through lead aqueducts. Yes, lead. Historians still argue whether the Romans knew about lead poisoning. Some say yes, but they thought it built character. Others insist they had no clue. You fill the jug and glance up at the ceiling. It drips gently, forming lazy rivulets down the plaster. You know those leaks by heart. There's one that always falls into the same crack between two floor tiles. You once dropped a coin in there. You think it's still down there, waiting. You kneel to check the heat stones near the edge of the room. These are the ones patrons like to sit on for backaches. You press your palm down, too hot. You grab a damp cloth and lay it gently across the surface, letting the hiss and steam warn any would-be sitters. You've seen your share of scorched buttocks. One man compared it to being kissed by Vulcan himself. He didn't sit for 3 days. A scuffle breaks out near the far wall. Two young men, arguing over a strigil. You approach carefully, keeping your tone low, your posture relaxed. There are 2 more in the tepidarium, you offer. They glare at each other. One grunts and storms off. Crisis narrowly avoided. You return to your corner, pretending you didn't just stop a slap fight over hygiene tools. Later, the bath's manager, a plump man in a purple-bordered tunic, pokes his head in. He nods at you, mutters something about those tiles still flaking, and disappears. You make a mental note to clean the corner by the pillar, again. It flakes because people sit there and scrape their heels. You've told them not to. They don't listen. Still, the caldarium is yours. Not by title, not by ownership, but by familiarity. You know which part of the floor groans when stepped on. Which faucet leaks. Which regular prefers citrus oil and which hates the smell. You are invisible, but everywhere. Like the steam, one man sneezes, violently, and startles the entire room. Someone mutters, "Must be the spring," while another replies, "Or a curse." You try not to laugh. The acoustics make everything sound 10 times louder in here. You once dropped a bucket and it echoed for 3 minutes. Eventually, the room begins to empty. People drift back to the tepidarium, flushed and loose-limbed. You're left alone with the heat. The flickering brazier, and the scent of oil. You sit on the edge of the basin, just for a moment, letting the heat wrap around you like a woolen fog. Your tunic clings to your back. Your feet ache. But there's a satisfaction here, in this quiet after the storm. You've kept the fire alive. You've made the room breathe. You close your eyes, for just one breath, then you rise, and begin wiping the tiles, one square at a time. You step through the narrow archway into the frigidarium, and everything in your body wants to turn around and walk right back out. The cold smacks you like a marble slap. The air is sharp, dry, and mercilessly honest. No perfume here, no oils, no steam to hide behind. Just icy stillness, clean tile, and the basin, a square pool of water so clear it looks like liquid glass. A pool that has ruined many a brave bather's illusions about their pain tolerance. You've never understood how people willingly do this. After the cocoon of the caldarium, plunging into what feels like melted glacier water seems theatrical. But, of course, theatrics are kind of Rome's thing. Historians still debate whether the frigidarium was more for health or shock value. Some say it tightened the skin and reinvigorated the senses. Others claim it was a test of masculinity. If you could handle the plunge, you could handle life. You've seen senators squeal like toddlers in here, so take that theory with a grain of bath salt. You begin your work, wiping the edge of the marble basin, laying out the towels, arranging the sandals of those already inside. You catch your own reflection in the water, blurry, warped, and pause for a breath. Then someone shouts your name from behind, boy. Strigil. You're not a boy. You're 17. But you've given up on correcting anyone. You grab the curved tool and bring it over, handing it off with a forced smile. The man takes it without looking at you, still shivering from the plunge, and resumes his grooming like a particularly damp statue. There's a quiet here, different from the other rooms. The kind of quiet that makes you aware of your own heartbeat. Footsteps echo longer. Conversations are shorter. Even the laughter is more fragile, like it might shatter if it touches the water. You sweep around the edge of the pool, careful not to slip. The floor is colder than the air, and your sandals are beginning to feel like ice blocks strapped to your feet. You crouch to scrape a patch of moss near the drainage corner, a thankless task. But left unchecked, moss grows, and once it takes hold, it's slipperier than any senator's promises. A man in his 30s, lean and grizzled, catches your eye and gives a brief nod. He's a regular. Quiet, polite. Never makes a mess, never complains. Once, he left you half a loaf of honey bread wrapped in fig leaves. You didn't eat it, paranoia runs deep, but you appreciated the gesture. He dives into the pool like a seal. No sound. No drama. Just a quiet splash and a resurfacing breath. Some people make it look easy. The bathhouses manager enters and surveys the room, sniffing the air like a suspicious fox. Still smells clean, he mutters. No cabbage today. Then he nods and vanishes, leaving behind the scent of rose oil and stress. You crouch near the pillar to inspect the candle stubs. You replace the one that's burned down to nothing. The flame flickers once, then steadies, throwing amber light across the mosaic floor. The tiles show a hunting scene: boars, dogs, a man with a net. It's cracked in places, but the story holds. You once traced that entire mosaic during a slow afternoon. Made a game of it. The dog's eyes follow you, if you look from just the right angle. Creepy. But also kind of comforting. A group of younger men enter, apprentices, from the look of them. Joking loudly, daring each other to jump in. One does, immediately regrets it, and thrashes out like he's been stabbed by Neptune himself. You bite your tongue to keep from laughing. The others collapse on the floor in hysterics. You hand the drenched one a towel. He mutters thanks through chattering teeth. Not long after, an older woman enters, wrapped in thick wool. She doesn't bathe, just sits quietly near the pool, eyes closed, breathing in the cold. She comes every third day, like clockwork. Rumor is, she once served in the emperor's household. You doubt that. But she carries herself like someone who's heard every secret and chosen silence anyway. As you refill the oil jar beside the door, you glance once more at the pool. The surface is still. Utterly still. Like it's waiting. You wonder if the water remembers every person who's ever entered it. If it keeps their heat, their breath, their hesitations. If it knows things about you, too. You shake the thought away and head to the supply alcove to fetch a new bundle of towels. As you move through the doorway, the sound of dripping water fades behind you, replaced by the distant hum of conversation from the tepidarium. One last look over your shoulder. The woman still sits unmoving, the young men are gone, the old man is back under his towel, and the pool, perfect as ever, reflects the flickering candlelight like a mirror for gods. You close the door gently behind you. You push through the heavy curtain and step into the tepidarium, your favorite room, warm, but not scalding. Bright, but not blinding. Alive, but never frantic. The tepidarium is the bathhouse's beating heart, and unlike the drama of the caldarium or the icy dare of the frigidarium, this room feels human. Warm air brushes your cheeks, heavy with a comforting mix of lavender oil and damp limestone. You inhale deeply. It smells like home. Muffled laughter echoes against painted walls. A slave boy plays a soft tune on a reed flute in the corner, not particularly well, but no one seems to mind. It's background music to the grand Roman daydream. The benches are already half filled with patrons, some fresh from the cold plunge, others pausing between heat cycles. You recognize the man with the garlic necklace, the woman who always brings a tiny lap dog, yes, into the baths, and a philosopher you once saw fall asleep mid-sentence. You begin your rounds, sweeping up olive pits, folding towels, adjusting sandals so they're all facing the same way. You know that sounds silly. But it matters. Someone notices. Someone always does. Historians agree the tepidarium served as a social transition zone, the literal middle ground in both temperature and temperament. But they still argue whether it was primarily a place to linger or a gateway to the real bathing. You think both are true. This is the room where things happen between things. Where time stretches, bends, forgets to matter. A chubby merchant waves you over. Hot water, if you please, he says, flapping his arms like a disgruntled duck. You bring it to him in a bronze jug, careful not to spill. He grunts in approval and returns to his conversation about grain prices and something called wine futures. You're not sure that's a real thing. Two boys nearby are arm wrestling on the floor. Their elbows slip on the tiles, and one bangs his head with a theatrical yelp. You fetch a cloth and dab the spot. No blood. Just bruised pride. The gods have chosen, you whisper. He grins through his pout. Victory tastes better when it's kind. You pause at the fountain in the center of the room. It burbles with practiced indifference, the water spilling over a lion's mouth and into a basin where coins glint beneath the surface. You toss in a pebble, not a coin, never a coin, and whisper a wish. The mosaic floor beneath your feet is a swirl of dolphins and sea chariots. You know the artist. Well, you knew of him, an old Greek who hated his own hands by the time the job was done. Said he wanted to paint skies, not scrub tiles. Still, he made magic. You trace one dolphin with your toe. A scholar at the far bench is talking to himself. Loudly. Something about Cicero's overuse of similes. You've heard this monologue before. Word for word. You could lip sync it at this point. But you let it run in the background like a favorite old song. A couple sits nearby, whispering. She laughs into her hand. He tries to look unimpressed. You recognize the body language, new love, tentative love, that strange Roman blend of passion and political strategy. You hope it lasts. You hope they come back. You catch a glimpse of yourself in a polished bronze shield hung as decoration. Just a blur, but enough to notice. You look tired. There's steam in your hair, your tunic clings, your eyes have that unfocused gaze of someone who's been awake too long and thinking too much. You shake it off. There's a rhythm to the work here, and the tepidarium is where it flows best. You pour water. Scrape tiles, fetch oil, nod at familiar faces, and smile at strangers. You are part of the room's design now, unofficial, unnoticed, but essential. Someone sneezes. Loudly. The flute player stumbles. You hear a snort of laughter ripple across the benches like a wave. It's infectious. You grin too, even if you don't know why. The room begins to shift. People rise, stretch, pat down their skin with towels. Some drift toward the hot room again, others make their way to the massage alcoves. You take a moment to tidy the benches, scoop up a forgotten sandal, and retrieve a floating towel from the fountain. It's soaked, heavy, and vaguely lemon-scented. You squeeze it out and hang it on a drying peg. The last of the guests filter out, and the tepidarium is still again. You sit for a moment on the edge of the fountain, letting the burble of water and distant flute carry your thoughts. There's a pigeon on the windowsill. Its feathers ruffle in the breeze, but it doesn't fly away. Just watches. Like it knows this room, too. You watch it back, then you stand, and return to work. You step through the arch into the apoditerium, the changing room, and are immediately met with a whirlwind of sound and motion. If the tepidarium is the heart of the bathhouse, this room is its bustling mouth. Voices rise and fall, tunics flap like sails, sandals clatter to the floor. It's organized chaos, and somehow, it works. Benches line the walls, each one crowded with men in various states of undress. Robes are shrugged off, togas folded, badly, belts tangled like overcooked noodles. And amidst it all, latticed shelves, stacked with belongings. Or, more accurately, stacked with temptations. Your first task: retrieve a pouch of coins that someone claims to have definitely left right there. Spoiler alert, they didn't. You smile, nod, and pretend to search, giving the man time to accept the slow realization that it's gone. Lost? Stolen? Misplaced during a particularly energetic disrobing? Who knows? Welcome to the apoditerium. Historians agree this room served more than just a practical purpose, it was a social litmus test. Here, status was momentarily leveled. Senators undressed beside slaves, merchants beside soldiers. For a brief moment, everyone was equally naked, equally human. Well, mostly. There were still those who insisted on keeping jewelry on in the water. You glance at one such man now, untying his sandal with fingers full of rings. If one falls into a drain, you're the one who has to dig it out. There's an odd intimacy here, not sexual, just physical. A camaraderie formed in shared awkwardness. You catch snippets of gossip, jokes, complaints about wives, taxes, and the price of decent olives. You pretend not to listen, but you're a sponge. Everyone thinks bathhouse workers are invisible. They aren't. One man is arguing with his son over which tunic belongs to whom. They're identical. Neither wants to be seen in the stretched out one. You settle it by tossing them both fresh ones from the linen cart and quietly retiring the disputed garments. Peace brokered by cotton. A guard in a crested helmet drops off a scroll for safekeeping. He insists it's imperial business, which makes you want to open it even more. But you don't. You just store it in the marked chest, behind the one filled with scented oils. Will he ever come back for it? Questionable. You slide past a group of young men, all shoulder-slapping and laughing too loud. One has a bruise on his cheek. You don't ask. He doesn't want to be asked. You hand him a damp cloth and keep moving. In the corner, a boy no older than 10 fumbles with the knot in his belt. He's flushed with embarrassment. You kneel, help him loosen it, and tell him everyone forgets how belts work in a hurry. He nods solemnly, like you've passed him ancient wisdom. His father mouths a thank you from across the room. You straighten, and someone knocks over a jug of oil. It glugs across the mosaic floor in slow, syrupy chaos. You sigh. Grab the sand bucket. Scatter. Scrape. Mop. This happens daily. The floor now smells like lavender and regret. Then the thieves arrive. Not actual thieves, just the rowdy trio of regulars known for hiding other people's tunics. They find it hilarious. No one else does. You catch them just as they're stuffing a purple sash into a ceiling crack. You make eye contact. They sheepishly return it. No words exchanged. Just the slow, resigned sigh of tradition. Historians still argue whether theft was common in Roman bathhouses. Some records suggest attendants were bribed to misplace items. Others believe bathers simply lost track of things in the joyful chaos. You believe it was a bit of both. Chaos is the perfect cover for carelessness and cunning alike. The room begins to thin out. Most of the bathers have moved on to the steam rooms or are heading home, red-cheeked and freshly scrubbed. You start sorting the discarded laundry. Towels into the rinse pile, tunics hung to air out, belts coiled like sleepy snakes. The rhythm is comforting, in its own repetitive way. One shelf has a carved inscription, "Alice was here." Another reads, "Julia smells like goat." That one's been there for months. Julia probably does not smell like goat. Probably, you find a half-eaten fig under a bench. Squashed. Sticky. You sigh again, and toss it into the refuse jar, imagining the philosopher from earlier giving a speech on the dignity of fruit. There's a lull now. The room exhales. You sit for a moment on a low stool, rubbing your shoulder. Through the open arch, you can hear splashes from the caldarium, someone singing off-key, and the lazy chirp of birds outside the windows. For a second, you're still, then the next wave arrives, more robes, more sandals, more noise. The bathhouse never really empties. It just shifts, like a tide. And you are its shoreline. You rise, tie your own belt tighter, and step forward to meet them. You slip out into the courtyard garden, where the sounds of the bathhouse fade behind thick marble walls. The air is cooler here, heavy with the scent of cypress and crushed mint beneath your sandals. Sunlight spills across the flagstones like warm honey, and bees bob lazily between the flowers, too drunk on nectar to care about your presence. This is the quiet center, the in-between moment. A place few guests linger long, but one you return to whenever you can. You brush your fingers across the feathery leaves of a fern, its dew still clinging to the edges, and feel your breath slow in rhythm with the gentle sway of the branches. The garden isn't large, but it feels like a world of its own. Olive trees lean in as if listening, their silvery leaves whispering secrets. A stone bench sits beneath a pomegranate tree, stained with old fruit. You sit there sometimes, watching the ants carry off seeds twice their size, wondering if they ever stop to consider how absurdly ambitious they are. A turtle lives here. No one knows where it came from, just that it showed up one day and never left. You spot it now, sunning itself near a chipped statue of Venus, oblivious to the grandeur behind it. You've named it Titus. He looks like a Titus. Historians still argue whether these bathhouse gardens were spaces for philosophical reflection or simply aesthetic indulgence. Some say senators came here to ponder state affairs. Others say they came to flirt under the fig trees. You've seen both. And neither. Mostly, people come here when they want to be alone without admitting they need to be. A young woman walks past, trailing her fingers across a marble ledge. She glances up, catches you watching, and gives the smallest nod. Not flirtation, just acknowledgement. The unspoken code of bathhouse staff and regulars. She disappears into the shadowed corridor beyond. A pair of sparrows dive into the fountain. You'd swear they're playing. The water arcs around them like spun glass. You remember a day, rainy and loud, when you sat on that very edge, soaked through, and tried to decide if you were going to quit. The garden answered. Not with words, but with a kind of patient stillness that made the decision for you. You begin to tidy, though nothing really needs tidying. Straightening a vase. Brushing fallen petals into a neat pile. Aligning pebbles along the fountain rim because it feels right. You hum softly, the tune older than memory, passed to you from someone who passed it from someone else. A slave girl enters carrying a tray of olives and dates. She's new, nervous in her steps, eyes darting like minnows. You offer a reassuring smile. She nearly drops the tray in surprise, then laughs softly, steadies herself, and moves on. Maybe next week she'll feel like she belongs. Maybe you'll be the one to help her believe it. There's a mural on the back wall, fading now. A myth, you think, but one no one tells anymore. A hero crossing a river on a bridge of fireflies. It's impossible, clearly, but also oddly reasonable when you look at it long enough. You've stared at it for hours on lazy afternoons, finding new meanings in the cracks and curves. a whisper of wind stirs the vines overhead, and for a moment, the entire space seems to breathe. The garden isn't grand. It isn't famous. But it knows things. It's seen laughter, tears, awkward proposals, breakups, reconciliations, and one very dramatic monologue about cheese that still makes you chuckle. You light a single oil lamp on the stone pedestal as dusk begins to nibble at the edges of the day. The flame dances, casting golden flickers onto the leaves. Somewhere deep in the bathhouse, someone sneezes. The garden doesn't flinch. It never does. Historians agree the best bathhouses offered spaces for both cleansing and contemplation. But few mention how deeply personal those spaces became, how many secrets they held for those who lived behind the steam and laughter. The garden is yours. Not by ownership, but by rhythm. You know its moods better than you know most people's. You sit once more on the stone bench and watch a lizard dart across the path. It pauses, tongue flickering, then vanishes into the ivy. You lean back, close your eyes for a moment, and let the sounds wrap around you, buzzing wings. Trickling water, a distant flute from inside. When you open your eyes, the first star has blinked into view. Time to return. You brush the dust from your tunic, give Titus a parting glance, and step back into the corridors of warm stone and murmured voices. You follow the dim torchlight down a narrower corridor now, one that leads you away from the garden and toward the edge of the complex. Fewer guests wander this far. The walls shift from polished marble to simpler stone. You know this route by heart. It leads to the caldarium. The heat kisses your face even before you round the corner. It's a thick, wet warmth that clings to your skin and seeps into your bones. You step through the arch and into a room that could easily pass for a dream, hazy, echoing, surreal. The caldarium pulses with steam. Clouds rise from the sunken pool at the center, drifting like ghosts toward the domed ceiling where a circular opening, the oculus, lets in a single shaft of golden light. It falls like a spotlight onto the water, catching droplets in midair and making them shimmer like stars. You squint through the mist to see the silhouettes of bathers. Some sit on the broad steps inside the hot pool, sunk to their shoulders in bliss. Others lounge on the marble ledges, red-cheeked and glistening, arms sprawled, toes twitching from the heat. A worker you know nods at you from across the room. He's holding a bronze ladle, scooping water over heated stones. The hiss is satisfying, sharp, like the room sighing louder. You wave back, careful not to step on the puddle forming near the base of a statue of Neptune. He always ends up with the worst splash zone. Historians agree that the caldarium was the climax of the Roman bathing sequence. This was where you sweated out your sins, or at least your garlic. But they still debate whether these hot rooms served medicinal purposes or were just another indulgence for the wealthy. You suspect it was both. Humans rarely separate wellness from status. You kneel near the side of the pool, helping an older man adjust the cloth wrapped around his shoulders. Too hot, he mutters, but doesn't move. No one ever moves. Everyone says it's too hot. Everyone stays. You glance at the brazier, a beast of a contraption, kept burning all day. It feeds the hypocaust system below, where flames dance in tunnels under the floor. You've seen the firemen tend them. Soot-streaked and shirtless. They look like cave spirits from another age. You've also seen a rat scurry between those tunnels once. You didn't tell anyone. Everyone deserves a warm bath, even rats. A young man nearby is reciting lines of poetry between gulps of warm air. The sweat of gods, my friend, is hotter still, he declares. His companion groans and dunks his head. You smile. Every caldarium has a poet. And every poet is ignored. The heat begins to claim you too. Your limbs feel liquid, your thoughts soft around the edges. You settle onto a bench near the back wall, letting your spine melt into the stone. The air smells of rosemary and salt. Someone added herbs again. Or dropped their lunch. You watch condensation gather on the walls, racing down in rivulets like tiny rivers. It's mesmerizing. One droplet splits into two. You name them. Marcus and Lucia. Marcus wins. A slave boy walks through with a stack of towels, his eyes half-lidded with fatigue. You offer to carry half. He nods, grateful but wary. Trust is earned slowly here. You carry the towels together to the warming alcove, your arms steaming as you go. There's a slow rhythm to this room, a heartbeat. It's not silent, but it's hushed, voices are lower, breath more measured. People speak less here. Maybe it's the heat. Maybe it's the atmosphere of reverence. The caldarium feels sacred, like a church of sweat and marble. A man slips trying to exit the pool. You catch his elbow in time. He grins sheepishly. That step moves, he jokes. It doesn't. You steady him anyway. His ring leaves a wet imprint on your arm, like a perfect circle of gold dust. You lean against a pillar carved with sea creatures, octopus, eel, dolphin, all tangled in a whirl. One octopus has 5 legs. Artistic license, probably. Or an artist who never met an octopus. A woman with braided hair pours water over her own shoulders, the stream catching the light and turning her momentarily into a waterfall. You wonder if she knows how stunning it looks. Probably not. No one ever sees themselves clearly in steam. You close your eyes for a moment and just breathe. The steam curls around your face. Whispering nothing in particular. This is where the day burns away, where thoughts lose their edges, where you remember how soft you really are beneath the doing, and then, clang, someone dropped a bronze scraper. It rings out like a dinner bell. Everyone jumps. Then laughter. Even the poet chuckles. The sound echoes up into the dome and vanishes like a bird. You rise, brush your damp tunic, and glance once more at the oculus. Through it, the sky is violet now, twilight melting into night. You know you should leave. The night shift is waiting. But you linger, you always linger, because here, for a brief hour in the fog and fire, the world stops insisting on itself, and so do you. You finally step out of the caldarium, your body soaked in heat, your thoughts loose and misted. The marble corridor feels cool by contrast, like a welcome breeze against your flushed skin. Your sandals slap quietly on the stone as you move toward the next part of the ritual, the frigidarium. Oh yes. Cold water. You probably won't survive this. You pass under a mosaic arch, blue and green tiles spiraling into fish and waves, and descend a short staircase. The temperature drops with every step. Goosebumps rise on your arms. You pause at the threshold, staring at the still pool in the center of the chamber. It's like a slab of onyx, unmoving, glossy, suspiciously calm. You know better. You ease in one foot. Regret. Regret immediately, but this is part of the process, isn't it? The shock, the renewal. You grit your teeth, pretend you're a statue, and slide in all at once. The cold clamps around your ribs like a fist. You inhale sharply, your eyes wide, your soul briefly attempting to leave your body. Welcome to Roman hydrotherapy. The Romans believed the frigidarium closed the pores after the heat. Modern historians argue whether this actually had any health benefits, or whether it was just a good way to prove you weren't a complete coward in front of your friends. You're not sure what's more Roman, hygiene, or peer pressure. You exhale. After the first wave of discomfort passes, something else sets in. Clarity. You feel your heartbeat, your fingers tingling, your brain lighting up like someone flipped a switch. The cold doesn't just cleanse, it wakes you up. A boy cannonballs in near the far edge. Water sloshes over the rim and soaks your tunic. You glare, but he grins. You forgive him instantly. It's hard to hold a grudge when you're actively freezing to death. The frigidarium is the most echoey chamber, and it plays tricks with sound. A whisper becomes a rumor. A laugh becomes a performance. You hear 3 languages in a minute: Greek, Latin, and something you can't place. The bathhouse is a crossroads. After all, you tread water and drift to the side, where smooth columns rise up from the pool's edge. You rest your forehead against the stone. It's even colder than the water. There's a crack running down the middle of this column, filled in with gold. Someone said it was fixed by an artisan from Gaul, who used a technique learned from the East. Or maybe that's just a rumor. Historians still argue whether the Romans actually practiced kintsugi-like repairs, or whether that's a modern romantic projection. Either way, the gold glints in the light like a vein in a marble arm. You like it. Across from you, a young woman is practicing slow movements with her arms. Almost like dancing, almost like fighting. You realize she's shadowing gladiator forms. She catches your eye, nods once, then resumes. You admire the elegance in her form. Strength without harshness. Intention without tension. It's easy to forget that this cold pool is part of a greater cycle. You've been in this bathhouse hundreds of times, and yet every visit feels different. It reflects your mood back at you, like a mirror made of water and walls. You dunk your head under. The silence there is complete. The world vanishes. You imagine what the villa must look like from outside, a block of stone glowing from within, nestled in the rolling hills. From the sky, you'd look like just another ripple on the roof. You surface with a gasp, slicking your hair back. Someone offers you a towel. You thank them, noticing your fingers are pruny, your nose a little numb. Back on the edge, you sit with your legs in the water and watch others brave the plunge. There's a certain solidarity in it. Everyone squeals. Everyone shivers. Everyone pretends it's not that bad. You wrap your towel tighter and lean back against the wall, letting your body adjust. Slowly, warmth returns to your limbs. You feel new, like fresh clay that's just been cooled after the fire. Near you, two elderly men debate the best way to pour water over your back, straight from a jug, or with a ladle and sponge. The younger one argues for efficiency, the older insists on ceremony. The gods appreciate method. He declares, splashing a bit to demonstrate. Even Neptune had a routine. They're probably both right. Romans did love routine. Everything had a method. Even chaos had a system. You glance toward the doorway, where a servant is rolling a dry sheet of linen. Time to dry off. You thank the water silently and step out, dripping across the floor, your sandals squeaking. Outside the frigidarium, you pass a narrow alcove where someone's singing a quiet tune in minor key. It winds through the air like smoke. You don't recognize the language, but it doesn't matter. The tone is enough. You dry your arms, your face, your hair. The towel is rough in a satisfying way, like waking up after a deep nap. Everything feels real again. A final look back at the cold pool, the domed ceiling above it, the ripple of torchlight across the surface. Then you nod to the room, a silent goodbye, and slip out the far side. You're not quite done yet. There's one more chamber to visit before the day ends. The soft echo of your footsteps carries down a quieter corridor now, less crowded, less dramatic. The sounds of splashing and steam have faded behind you, replaced by something calmer. You're heading toward the tepidarium, the warm room, not too hot. Not too cold. Just right. Goldilocks would have loved it here. The Romans used the tepidarium as a kind of liminal zone, a place to acclimate. You, too, feel your muscles stretch with relief at the steady warmth. No blazing braziers, no icy plunge pools. Just ambient heat that wraps around you like a well-worn blanket. This chamber is lower lit than the others. Lamps set into the walls flicker gently, casting amber shadows that sway like lazy dancers. The air is thick with moisture and the light scent of lavender. Some clever soul has tucked herb bundles behind a grate in the wall. You silently thank them. You step inside and feel the floor hum faintly beneath your feet. The hypocaust system is still at work here, just dialed down a notch. Beneath the stone slabs, the fire licks at air channels, warming the room from the ground up. A Roman marvel, really. Engineers today still marvel at how evenly these ancient systems distributed heat. You pause near a reclining bench carved with seahorses. It's warm to the touch, no surprise, but still oddly pleasant. You sit, stretch your legs, and exhale. There's no rush. No scrubbing. No plunging. Just being. Others lounge nearby. A merchant with his tunic bunched around his waist reads a scroll by lamplight. A woman gently braids her daughter's hair. A soldier, eyes closed, mouths something silently, perhaps a prayer, or just counting breaths. No one speaks loudly here. The room seems to enforce hush. You look up at the ceiling, painted with faded frescoes, fish, birds, a chariot drawn by dolphins, an ambitious image if ever there was one. Time has blurred their outlines, but their motion still sings across the plaster. Historians suggest the tepidarium wasn't just a warm-up, it was a social hub. Negotiations happened here. Alliances formed. Deals were sealed between steam and size. But some argue its true purpose was more personal, more introspective. A quiet pause in the noisy ritual of Roman life. Like that moment after a concert, when your ears ring but your heart is full, you lean back and let the warmth seep into your spine. You start to think, about nothing, mostly. The kind of thoughts that aren't really thoughts. Images, feelings. The memory of wet stone under your hand. The scent of that soap you liked but never asked about. The way someone you barely knew helped you pick up your sandals when you dropped them earlier. Someone walks by with a clay cup of warm spiced wine. He sees you watching and offers a sip. You accept, why not? It tastes like cinnamon and burnt orange. Not bad. You hand it back with a nod. Keep it, he says, already turning. You tuck it into the crook of your elbow and shift deeper into the bench, warmth curling into your knees, your chest, the tips of your ears. A boy with an oiled bronze mirror adjusts his hair nearby, tilting his chin and examining himself like he's Caesar in disguise. He turns and winks at you. You laugh softly. Everyone's someone in the tepidarium. The wall across from you bears a faint inscription. You squint. Felix fui, hic revixi. I was lucky, I lived again here. It's not official. It's not sanctioned. It's probably graffiti. But it fits. You close your eyes, cup warming between your hands, and let yourself drift. The warmth lulls your body into stillness. Your mind doesn't race. It strolls. It meanders. Even the bench seems to breathe beneath you, and just when you think you might stay here forever, cocooned in amber, preserved like some waxy relic, a bell rings faintly from down the corridor. The hour is changing. The day is shifting. Time to rise, but not too quickly. You set the cup aside, stretch your arms, and whisper a quiet thanks to the warmth. To the frescoes. To the people who made this space and never knew how long it would last. You step toward the exit, and the room exhales behind you. The tepidarium, in all its golden gentleness, remains, always waiting. Always warm. You emerge into a courtyard bathed in soft, drowsy light. The sun has lowered behind the cypress trees that rim the villa, stretching shadows long across the tiles. Birds chatter from high branches. You can smell olive oil, fresh figs, and something roasting in the kitchens, a hint that the evening meal isn't far off, but you're not hungry just yet. You're full in other ways. You follow a gravel path lined with small statues, mostly gods and half-naked heroes with very dramatic drapery, and head toward the final part of the day's ritual, the open-air rest garden. This space isn't technically part of the bathhouse, but it's where you always end up. Most people do, a few others are already there. Some recline on stone benches. One elderly man sleeps upright against a fig tree, mouth slightly open, his scroll slipping from loose fingers. A child tries to sneak past him without waking him up. She fails. He snorts awake and promptly pretends he never dozed off. Classic. The air is cooler here, but it carries heat from the day, baked into the walls, lingering in the sand. You find your usual spot beneath an ivy-covered arch. The stone is warm from the sun, and when you lie back, it holds you like a memory. You close your eyes. It's not sleep, exactly. It's rest. Romans had a word for this, odium. Not idleness, not laziness, but purposeful leisure. A time to be. To think. Or not. A divine kind of undoing. Historians still argue whether the average Roman actually had time for this, or whether odium was more of a poetic fantasy for elites who didn't have to wash their own tunics. But even the fantasy is nice. You wiggle your toes, which are still a little wrinkled from the frigidarium. The breeze tickles the hair on your arms. You think about how each part of the day, from the heated stone floors to the cold plunge to the scented oils, all leads here. To this. The stillness after motion. The exhale after effort. Nearby, someone begins to play a lyre. The melody is slow, repetitive, gentle. It wanders like the breeze. It's not a concert, it's just someone passing time. But it fits. You crack one eye open. Across the garden, you see a young couple sharing a piece of bread. Not in a romantic way, just a practical one. The man breaks it carefully, avoiding crumbs, while the woman dips her piece in a small pot of honey. They're not talking. Just eating. There's a comfort in that. Quiet togetherness. A bee buzzes near your head. You wave it off half-heartedly. It ignores you. You shift your position slightly and your back finds a dip in the stone that fits you perfectly. You've probably laid here 100 times. The dip knows you. You know the dip. That kind of friendship takes time. In the distance, you hear laughter from children playing a game that involves throwing nuts at a column and hoping they bounce into a bowl. It's less skillful than it sounds. You once played it yourself and accidentally hit a priest in the knee. He wasn't mad. Just disappointed. The sun slips lower. You can feel its light turning from gold to pink. One of the villa's attendants appears with a tray, fruit slices, cold water, towels for anyone still drying off. You take a fig and nod your thanks. It's soft and bursting with sweetness. You eat it in 2 bites. A tiny sticky thread clings to your lip, and you wipe it away without thinking. A friend passes by and ruffles your hair. Still here? They say. You grunt in reply. Don't forget the meeting tonight, they add. You raise an eyebrow. What meeting? They just laugh and keep walking. You'll remember later. Or you won't. It's fine, the lyre continues. A second instrument joins in, maybe a reed flute or some kind of bone whistle. The sound dances together, like 2 sleepy birds circling each other. It doesn't ask for attention. It just exists. You think about how old this villa is. How many people have laid here before you? How many will come after? The walls don't tell stories, but they remember. A small lizard scampers across the path and disappears into a crack in the wall. You wish him luck on his adventures. You yawn. A long one. The kind that stretches your jaw and makes your eyes water. You know you'll have to get up eventually. Dinner will be served. People will ask about your day. You'll nod and smile and say, it was good. And you'll mean it, but for now, you have a little more odium left in you. The garden holds you like a lullaby. The sky above ripens into twilight. The breeze grows bolder, now brushing your cheeks with cool fingers. The lyre slows. The air thickens with the scent of night flowers, and you, warm, tired, and deeply clean, stay still, just a while longer. The stars are beginning to show as you rise from your ivy-sheltered perch. Not all at once, just the brave early ones that peek out before the sky fully gives in to darkness. You stretch again, this time slower, joints clicking like ancient door hinges, and make your way toward the villa's outer edge. There, a gentle slope winds up toward a terraced overlook. You know the path by heart. Each cobble, each stubborn tuft of grass that refuses to be trampled. The torches haven't been lit yet, but moonlight guides your steps just fine. You pass a statue of Minerva, her expression as stern as ever, and offer her a silent nod. You once tried to wink at her for luck. A pigeon dropped something on your head 2 minutes later. Lesson learned. At the top of the slope, the view opens like a curtain. The whole villa bath complex stretches out below, glowing windows, lazy plumes of steam, people moving like shadows between pillars. Beyond it, the Tiber snakes silver across the land, and the city sprawls past its banks like a dream you can't quite catch all at once. Rome, it's quieter from up here. Not silent, Rome is never silent, but softened. Like someone's turned the volume down so the city doesn't wake you, you sit on the low stone wall and let your legs dangle. The stone is cool now. You feel it through your tunic. Goosebumps bloom on your thighs. You don't mind. It's honest cold. The kind that says, the day's done. Somewhere behind you, a door creaks open and feet shuffle into place. Someone else has come to enjoy the view. You don't turn to look. They don't speak. You're sharing the silence, and it's perfect. You think about the people who built this. Not the overseers, but the ones who laid each stone. Dug each ditch. Heated the water. Polished the marble until it gleamed. Their hands touched everything you've touched. Their lives echo in each pillar and path. Historians argue whether Roman bathhouses were more for hygiene or politics. But up here, neither seems to matter. It feels like peace. However temporary, you pick up a small pebble and roll it between your fingers. It's smooth, worn down by centuries of footsteps. Maybe someone else sat here long ago, just like you, turning this same stone in their palm. Maybe they were thinking about dinner. Or love. Or laundry. Maybe they were just trying not to fall asleep. You spot a figure down by the frigidarium, hesitating on the edge again. It's a familiar ritual now. Some people never quite make the jump. And that's okay. There's always tomorrow. A breeze stirs your hair. You taste salt on your lips, sweat, or memory, or maybe both. The person behind you finally speaks. Long day? You nod. Good one. They sit beside you, careful not to crowd. You both stare out, blinking slowly, eyes adjusting as stars gather overhead like old friends. After a moment, they say, "You coming to the storytelling later?" You grin. Wouldn't miss it. Last time, Gaius got so scared he spilled wine on his sandal. Again? You chuckle. That man's fear reflex is legendary. You talk like this for a while. Not much is said, but everything is shared. Eventually, the villa's torches flicker to life, one by one. Their glow spreads across the garden like warm breath on a winter window. The musicians down below strike up a low tune, strings and reeds and the occasional slap of someone who missed a note. The other person stands and dusts off their tunic. See you down there? You nod again. Save me a spot. They go, and you stay. Just a moment longer. This is the part of the day you treasure most. After the cleansing. After the heat. After the cold. When everything is still, and you can feel the day folding itself into a soft close, you breathe deep. The scent of rosemary drifts from a nearby planter. You remember someone once told you rosemary is for memory. You forget who. Down below, laughter bubbles up. Someone singing something off-key. A dog barks once, then settles. You rise slowly, brushing dust from your palms. One last look at the city. At the bathhouse, still steaming gently like some giant creature asleep, then you turn and walk back down the path, feet finding the rhythm again, body loose and clean and entirely yours. The night continues. So do you. The storytelling fire crackles gently, surrounded by friends, strangers, and that one guy who always tries to outdo the storyteller with dramatic gasps. You settle onto a low cushion near the edge of the circle, arms around your knees, the warmth from the flames kissing your cheeks. This part isn't required. It's not official. No edict from the Senate says Romans must gather around fire pits to share outlandish tales, but they do. Every night, almost instinctively, like moths to the flicker, tonight's storyteller is old Marius. He's missing 2 teeth and wears the same woolen wrap no matter the season. He always begins the same way, by clearing his throat so loudly that it scares off at least 3 birds. Tonight, he croaks, we remember the mountain that screamed. Cue the dramatic gasp from Dramatic Gasp Guy. Right on time, you smile. The story, about a volcano spirit that sneezed lava because someone built a latrine on sacred moss, is clearly not real. But that's never the point. The point is the laughter when the spirit slips on his own soot. The gasps when villagers climb inside a smoking cave. The groans when someone inevitably farts and blames it on sulfur fumes. The firelight bounces off every face, softening wrinkles, warming tired eyes. A girl with braids leans forward, lips parted, absorbing every detail. A soldier, still in partial armor, sips watered wine and chuckles into his goblet. You lean back, your head resting against someone's knee. They don't seem to mind. The sounds wrap around you, low voices, rustling fabric, the pop of resin in the flames. It's cozy in that way only shared absurdity can be. Historians still argue whether Roman oral storytelling served a greater societal purpose, or whether it was just ancient Netflix. Maybe both. Whatever the answer, it works. Marius wraps up his tale with a flourish and a truly terrible pun about molten manners. Everyone groans appreciatively. He bows, somehow smug for a man with 2 teeth, and makes way for the next teller. This one's younger, maybe your age. He begins a spooky tale about a haunted aqueduct and a fish that whispers in Latin. You let the words drift over you like mist. The fire dims a little. People shuffle to get comfortable, your mind wanders, tracing the day's arc backwards, the scrub of pumice on your heels, the splash of frigid water, the slow drip of oil on your back, the steam rising into your nose. All of it brought you here. All of it still clings to your skin, like the scent of time and sun-warmed stone. You reach into a nearby basket and pull out a plum. It's so ripe it nearly bursts in your fingers. You bite, and sweet tart juice dribbles down your chin. You swipe it away lazily with your sleeve. Someone passes you a jug of wine. You take a sip, just enough to coat your throat, and pass it on. The shared cup makes its way around the circle like a ritual. Not sacred, exactly, but deeply human. Another story starts. This one's a love tale about a baker and a soldier who secretly trade loaves for letters. The baker's sourdough ends up sparking a small rebellion. You have no idea how we got here, but you're invested, and now you're lying down fully, one arm flung over your eyes to block the smoke, your body sinking into the earth like it belongs there. The world spins on without you. You're fine with that. The fire flares unexpectedly. Sparks rise like fireflies, then vanish into the night sky. You watch them go. There's something ancient in this moment. You feel it. Like you've plugged into a current older than the city itself. Laughter, stories, warm food, and sore feet. This is what survives. Not the politics. Not the battles. This, the storyteller stumbles on a line, and someone from the crowd corrects him. He glares, but he's smiling too. You remember a time, long ago, when you tried to tell a story and forgot the ending. Everyone helped you invent a new one on the spot. It ended with a dancing donkey and a surprise tax audit. A crowd favorite, a dog curls up at your feet. You don't know whose it is. Doesn't matter, your eyes close for just a second. When they open, the circle is thinning. The night has stretched long. People rise, groaning and hugging and bumping into each other as they gather cloaks and sandals. You stay a little longer. Let the embers glow red against the dark. Someone places a blanket over your shoulders. No words. Just warmth. You sigh, deep in your chest. The kind of sigh that carries a whole day out with it. Then you rise, slow as a tide, and follow the others back towards sleep. The path back to your quarters is dimly lit, but familiar. Your feet know it without needing much help. The torches are mostly embers now, fat orange eyes blinking slow blinks into the wind. You pull the blanket tighter around your shoulders and breathe in the warm ash and crush time that seem to follow you everywhere. Your room is nothing grand. A clay oil lamp flickers weakly on the windowsill. There's a cot with woven reeds, a folded tunic, a wooden stool, and a basket filled with figs someone left earlier. You'll thank them tomorrow. You move slowly now, each movement syrup thick. You sit on the cot and peel off your sandals, one strap at a time, the knots looser than usual from the bath's lingering heat. Your toes wiggle in the cool air. Freedom, the blanket slips from your shoulders, pooling at your hips. You leave it there and lie back, head resting against a pillow filled with soft straw and lavender. The ceiling above you is plain, a muted plaster dome. You watch it anyway, as if the day might replay across it like shadows on a cave wall, and in a way, it does. You see flashes, steam rising like ghosts, laughter curling in the atrium, sun on the bath's water, cold on your skin like an exclamation point, a shared smile over oil-slicked shoulders, a low song drifting up from the garden, all of it held together, somehow. Historians still argue whether Roman bathhouses reflected decadence or discipline. You decide, lying here, that maybe they were both. And maybe that's okay. You close your eyes. Then open them again. One last thing, you rise, careful not to bump your head on the low beam, and step outside just for a moment. The air greets you gently. Cool and still, like a hush between breaths, you look toward the bath complex one more time. From here, in this light, it looks less like a building and more like a story. One someone took time to write with brick and steam and footsteps. You're part of it now. A single sentence in a much longer scroll. You run your hand along the stone railing, smooth from generations of hands, and whisper goodnight to no one in particular. Or maybe everyone. Then you go back inside, you lie down again, and this time your body sinks deeper. Your breath evens out. Your thoughts, too. The last sound you hear before drifting off is the faint call of someone far away, still telling a story, their voice soft and steady, reaching across space like a bridge of rope and patience. And now, the bridge is quiet, the night breeze threads softly through the cords, rustling the ends like distant lullabies. The stars peer down, glittering just above the cables, as if to remind you, even the heavens are strung together in patterns. You lie back once more, arms beneath your head, the scent of dried grass still clinging to your fingertips. Your breath slows, sinking with the faint sway of the bridge you know so well. The world rocks gently, not just your body, but your thoughts. They soften, loosen, drift. You think of the ropes. Of how each one starts small, fragile, uneven, incomplete. And how, through care and patience, it becomes strong. Interwoven. Trustworthy, like you remember the child who asked, "What happens if it breaks?" And your answer still holds, because even if things fray, even if parts fail, there is always the knowing of how to fix what matters. You are a mender now. A keeper of ties. A person who meets the morning with calloused hands and a clear purpose. Let that settle in your chest like warm tea. Let the image of the bridge, a golden arc over twilight water, linger behind your eyes as you exhale slowly. Completely, tonight, nothing is pulling, nothing is unraveling, everything is suspended, gently, where it belongs. You are safe, you are needed, you are home, and the bridge holds. The air cools, finally. Or maybe it's just you, too drained to sweat anymore. You slump against a pillar near the exit of the tepidarium, watching a trickle of bathers amble past in towels, robes, or nothing at all, muttering farewells and gossip as they disappear into Rome's evening. The marble under your sandals has stopped steaming. The echoes have quieted. Even the philosophers from earlier are gone, leaving behind only a faint scent of beard oil and unresolved arguments. Your arms ache. Not in the grand, noble way a soldier's might after a battle, but in the dull, petty way of someone who's been lifting towels and amphorae and mop buckets all day. There's no glory here. Just exhaustion that wraps itself around your shoulders like one of the many damp tunics tossed at you throughout the afternoon. You trudge toward the frigidarium, your favorite room now, not because you enjoy the cold plunge, but because no one lingers here too long. A lone, shivering nobleman is finishing up a final dip, teeth chattering, his personal servant wrapping him like a present in warmed cloth. You wait respectfully, pretending to straighten tiles along the edge of the pool. The servant nods as they pass. And you nod back, fellow members of the invisible working class, bonded by the universal ache of a 14-hour shift. You can hear the outer gates groaning closed in the distance. A soft thud confirms the last public entry has been barred. Now the real work begins. You fish a long-handled rake from behind a door and begin skimming the top of the frigidarium, catching wayward leaves, oil slicks, and one stray sock, again. You consider, not for the first time, whether someone is losing a sock every day on purpose. Some kind of rich person prank. Historians still argue whether certain Roman customs, like tossing objects into the baths, were rituals, accidents, or upper-class trolling. You light another oil lamp. Your fingers are stained with soot, the tips rough from rope and lime. It's the hour when shadows stretch long across mosaics, and the water stops looking inviting and starts looking bottomless. Every room seems to exhale. The caldarium sighs steam from its vents. The dressing rooms creak as benches cool. You walk through each chamber slowly, like a priest closing down a temple. In many ways, that's what this is, Rome's secular temple, devoted to sweat and oil and public hygiene. You pass a mural of Neptune riding seahorses and give him a mock salute. Still here, you whisper, as if he might thank you for keeping his sacred pools clean. Your route winds back toward the palestra, the open courtyard where people exercised before entering the baths. A few stray sandals lie abandoned there. One set has golden straps. Probably belonged to someone important. You tuck them aside in case they're claimed tomorrow. Or sold on the sly. Not by you, of course. But by someone. In the fading light, the floor tiles feel harder underfoot. You try to stretch without groaning and fail. Every muscle in your legs pulses like a protest. Your back tightens the moment you try to stand up straight. You allow yourself a moment. Just one. To sit against a pillar and close your eyes. Behind your eyelids, you still see steam. You still hear splashing. You swear you smell rosemary oil even now. But mostly, you feel the rhythm of things slowing down. There's no official signal. No bell or trumpet. Just the gradual hum of the baths powering down. You rise again, slowly, creakily, and light the final row of exit lamps. They burn low and soft, more for tradition than utility. You check each room one last time. In the caldarium, a half-melted wax figure from someone's joke is left floating in the corner. You scoop it out with a sigh and add it to the small pile of things no one wants to claim beside the storage closet. You remind yourself that once, a senator left behind his tunic and never came back for it. You folded it, stored it, and never saw him again. He's probably still in the forum somewhere, giving speeches in a borrowed toga. The shadows lengthen. Somewhere out in the city, a dog barks. A cart rolls over cobblestone. And you still have to sweep, so you get to it. Because this is the slow descent of the day. Not a dramatic finale, but a fade-out, like Rome itself, always fading, always rising, always in between. You gather a stray bunch of laurel leaves someone left behind, sweep them into your pan, and hum under your breath. Not a song you know. Just a rhythm your body remembers. You think of the way time moves here, in waves, in laps, in slippery footprints. The quiet now is thicker than silence. It's earned. You are almost done, almost. The heat from the hypocaust hasn't quite faded. As you descend the narrow steps behind the caldarium, the air turns thick again, hot, close, and smoky. It wraps around your neck like a damp scarf. You hold your breath for a moment, squinting into the half-lit gloom below the floor. The space is barely taller than you are, and already your back complains. This is the part no visitor sees. The underworld of the bathhouse. The furnace chambers. The hypocaust. You duck. You always have to duck. It's a maze of low, soot-darkened tunnel supported by rows of brick columns. The suspended floors above sit on these stacks, creating the perfect gap for heat to flow beneath the rooms. It's genius. Really. Roman engineering at its most clever. But right now, as you crawl among ash piles and glowing embers, you have a few uncharitable thoughts about Roman engineers. There's a crack near one of the pili, the little brick columns, that you've been watching for a week. You crouch beside it and poke gently with a stick. Still stable. For now. You make a mental note to tell Lucius, the senior furnace man, but you know how that'll go. If it hasn't collapsed yet, it won't. Historians still argue whether these underfloor heating systems were regularly maintained or if workers simply learned to live with a little smoke and a lot of prayer. You scoot deeper into the crawlspace. Your tunic snags on something sharp. A nail? A bone? You don't want to know. You shift forward on hands and knees. Your fingers feel around for loose tiles, stray coals, or anything that might combust in the night. It's a strange sort of meditation, quiet, slow, focused. You've gotten burned down here before. Everyone has. Just a bit. A reminder. Like the baths themselves, it's about tolerance, not comfort. You find an ember that's too bright. Still breathing like a sleeping dragon. You smother it with a damp cloth and whisper, "Not tonight." Not out of fear for the building, but because you're too tired to deal with an evacuation. As you crawl back toward the furnace chamber, your nose wrinkles at the familiar stink of singed hair, probably your own. You scratch at your scalp and come back with soot. Add that to tomorrow's bath. Eventually, you reach the heart of the furnace, a yawning brick oven taller than you are, blackened by 1,000 fires. The wood pile beside it has dwindled to a quarter of what it was this morning. You'll need to remind someone, probably yourself, to refill it before dawn. You shovel the last few logs into the belly of the beast, just enough to keep it warm overnight, not blazing. Just breathing. You step back, wipe your brow, and watch the faint glow settle into a sleepy pulse. The hypocaust is alive, but calm, and finally. So are you. You sit on a low wall beside the oven, roll your shoulders, and glance at the line of your own footprints in the ash. You think about how many people have never seen this part of the bathhouse. How many senators above you are lounging in warmth delivered by your sweat and smoke. How many stories of this place rise upward without mentioning the ones who stoke the fire. Still, there's a kind of honor in being the ghost beneath the floor. You lean your head back against the bricks. Warm, but not burning. You let your eyes close for a second too long. When they snap open again, you're not sure if you dreamed. There's no one down here to ask. You move slowly now, limbs like clay. You pass the tools wall, pausing to hang up the shovel. The rake. The hook for extracting fallen tiles. You smile at that one. You haven't had to use it in weeks. Progress. A small mouse scurries across the floor, unbothered by your presence. You nod at him like a colleague. Long day? He doesn't answer. He never does. Back at the stairs, you lift the trapdoor and pull yourself out into the cool above. The air hits your face like a blessing. You close the hatch, lock it, seal the fire in for the night, and then you breathe again, fully, for what feels like the first time in hours. The bronze bolt clicks into place with a tired clack. The thick wooden door groans one last time as you shut it behind you, sealing off the bathhouse from the world beyond. It's yours now, silent, steaming in its last ghostly vapors, and utterly still. You stand in the atrium for a moment, oil lamp in hand, the flame flickering across the fading mosaics underfoot. The lion's eyes in the tile seem to wink as if sharing a secret. Maybe they do. You wouldn't put it past this place to be alive in some quiet, ancient way. You've heard older workers swear they've seen things after hours, shadows that moved too quick, voices with no mouths. But you chalk that up to exhaustion. And possibly too much date wine. You cross the empty caldarium one last time, your footsteps echoing slightly, the heat finally ebbing from the air. The benches are cool now. The steam has vanished, leaving only dew on the marble. You pick up a single sandal someone left behind, the third this week. Either Rome is full of forgetful people or someone is starting a collection. You extinguish the last torch in the vestibule. Darkness creeps in like velvet, soft and absolute. The keys hang from your belt, heavy and clinking. 26 locks in total. You know them all by feel now. Each key has its own weight, its own scratchy groove. You've joked that if someone ever needed to identify you, they could just match your spine to the shape of these keys. Historians still debate whether Roman bathhouses were guarded overnight or simply locked and left to sleep. You think it's both. You don't guard the building, really. You tend to it. As if it were a restless old beast that just needs a kind word and a locked door to settle. One by one, you check the latches. The frigidarium door? Secured. The side gate near the furnaces? Latched and barred. The back courtyard that always squeaks just a little too loud? Wedged shut with an old amphora you repurposed for the task. Rustic problem solving, you run your palm along the smooth wall near the exit. Not for a reason, just habit. Maybe even affection. You've spent more time with this stone than with most people. And unlike people, it doesn't talk back. It just holds the warmth a little longer than it should, and that feels like something. You pass the lost and found shelf, a sad collection of towels, wooden combs, and half-empty perfume bottles. A tiny carved dolphin you forgot to turn in. You leave it. It's part of the bathhouse now. Finally, you reach the front gates. They're massive things, bronze and oak, inlaid with geometric patterns that catch the light just so, even now. You haul one closed with a grunt, the hinges screeching like old gossip. Then the other, when they meet, it's like a heartbeat slowing. You insert the final key, turn it, click, you stand there for a breath. Then another. Listening, nothing, and that's the best sound of all. Outside, the city hums in its own sleepy rhythm. A distant tavern laugh. The shuffle of sandals. The muted clop of hooves on stone. Rome never really sleeps, but it does. Wind down. You step out into that winding down, toes curling in your sandals as they finally cool. You pull your tunic tighter around your shoulders. The night air is kind, for once, not sharp, not damp. Just enough breeze to remind you you're not underground anymore. You take one last look back. The bathhouse looms behind you like a mountain you climbed. One tile at a time. One towel at a time. One oil-soaked day at a time, and now it rests. Because of you, you nod, not to anyone, but to the place. A final salute, then you walk. You take that first step into the street and feel it immediately. Freedom, yes, but also the deep, dull ache in your heels. It's a sensation you've come to expect. Like greeting an old friend who always punches your shoulder. The cobblestones are still warm from the day, but cooler than the floors you just left behind. Your feet thank you, even as your knees protest. You don't rush, there's no reason to anymore. The city at night is a different creature than it is by day. Gone are the vendors with their shouting, the carts, the shrieking geese, and the smoke from 10,000 cook fires. Instead, Rome hums. It doesn't sleep, exactly, it murmurs. A distant lute plucks out a tune. Someone laughs too loud across a narrow alley, and a dog barks once, deciding that's enough. You wind your way through narrow lanes, the kind that twist not because of design, but because of time. The walls lean in as you walk, like they're trying to listen to your thoughts. You don't mind. They've probably heard worse. A cat watches you from a window ledge. Its eyes blink slowly, the universal feline sign for you are tolerated. You blink back. That's as close to affection as you're getting tonight. You pass a small shrine built into a wall, one of those household gods watching over the neighborhood. There's a tiny oil lamp flickering beside it. Someone remembered. That always makes you smile. You stretch your arms overhead. Not much flexibility left, but it feels good to pretend. Your shoulders crack like firewood. Your hands still smell faintly of ash and lemon oil. You glance up, above you, the stars blink through gaps in laundry lines and tiled roofs. The sky over Rome isn't as dark as you'd like. Fires, lamps, and gossip keep it lit. But the stars still try their best. You give them credit for that, a few more turns, a short detour past the bakery, because it always smells like dreams, and you finally reach your block. Your building is squat and unimpressive, but solid. That counts for a lot. You climb the stairs slowly. No one hurries here. The walls are decorated with your neighbor's life stories, scuffed sandals, chipped plaster, the occasional fresco painted by someone's niece with big ambitions and shaky hands. There's a rooster drawn above your doorway. You're not sure who put it there, but you've adopted it. You unlock your door, home, that smell, that specific mix of dry linen, warm clay, and a faint hint of whatever the neighbor's cooking, wraps around you like a blanket. You step inside, shrug off your tunic, and pour a small cup of water from the jug near the door. It's lukewarm. Perfect. You sit on your bed. It creaks. So do your knees. The room is simple, just a bed, a stool, a shelf with a few small treasures, a smooth stone from the river, a lucky coin you found and never spent. A tiny amphora your cousin made badly but with love. You lie back, your spine makes a noise like a ship docking, and then you just breathe, not for work. Not for fire. Not to lift or bend or haul or wipe. Just to exist. Historians might argue whether bath attendants had time for peace. You'd like them to know, it happens. Sometimes, it happens here, in the quiet between jobs. In the walk home. In the space where nothing is asked of you, you trace the lines in your ceiling with your eyes. They mean nothing, but your brain turns them into maps, rivers, walls, roads. It's habit. After all, your life has always been about navigating spaces that weren't meant for comfort, and still. Somehow, you found it. You don't remember falling asleep, but you do remember the dream. You're back in the bathhouse, but it's empty, flooded with moonlight instead of steam. The pools shimmer like silver mirrors. The floor feels warm beneath your feet, but the air is cool, sweet, quiet. You walk past the caldarium and the frigidarium, through the tepidarium and out to the furnace chamber. Every room is perfect, silent, still. For once, everything is clean. For once, no one needs anything from you, and then the dream fades, and you're just here. Dawn scratches lightly at the edges of the sky. The kind of dawn that doesn't shout, but politely asks if it's okay to begin again. You stretch, slowly. Your joints resist, but give in with familiar cracks. You run your hands over your face and through your hair, then pull yourself up to sit. The room's the same. The rooster drawing on the wall greets you, still smug. The day waits, you don't rush into it. Not yet. Instead, you stand and shuffle to the small basin near the window. You splash cold water on your face. It shocks you awake in the best way, tracing your cheekbones and dripping down your neck. You breathe it in. This, at least, is yours. Breakfast is humble, barley cake, figs, and a smear of cheese. You eat it slowly, leaning against the window ledge, watching the city stir. A cart rolls by. A child runs after a dog. Someone yells something about fish. Back to normal. You wrap your tunic again, tighten your belt, and grab the iron ring of keys. Another day begins, and yes, it will be like yesterday. The fires will need tending. The water will need warming. The towels will pile up. Someone will complain. Someone will flirt. Someone will slip. You'll mop it all, and it's okay. You've made peace with the repetition, even grown to love it in a strange, tired sort of way. There's honor in routine. There's comfort in knowing what comes next, even when what comes next is hauling buckets or scrubbing limestone with vinegar and a prayer. Not many people know your name. Not many remember who keeps the bathhouse running. But the water is always hot. The lamps are always lit. The floors are clean. And that is because of you. You don't do it for praise. You do it because it needs doing. You step out the door, closing it gently behind you. The sky is still pink. The city breathes with you. The streets are empty again, and the bathhouse waits. You take a deep breath, and walk, and now, the bathhouse is quiet again, the fires are out. The water stills. The marble echoes only with memory. You sit on the warm stone one last time, the scent of lemon oil and steam soft in the air. Your breath settles. Your hands rest, stained with ash, strong from repetition. This place, its chambers, its rhythms, its noise, has cradled your days like a pulse. But tonight, it hums no longer. It sleeps. And so should you. You think of the hours. The sweeping. The lifting. The silent patience. And through it all, you were steady. You, the invisible hinge that let the door swing smoothly. You, the flame keeper in a world that never pauses. Let that thought stay with you, let it sink into your chest, slow and steady, like the warm water once did across the stones. Let it soften your shoulders, unclench your jaw, quiet your mind. It's okay to rest now, there's no more soap to scrape. No more jokes to endure from sweating senators. No more towels to fold. Only this moment, this softness, this end. Outside, the city hums in its sleep. The stars blink overhead. Unconcerned, eternal. And you, wrapped in the stillness of a job well done, are exactly where you need to be. You are unseen, perhaps, but never unimportant. You are tired, but deeply, peacefully so, and the bathhouse still stands. Good night.